Teen Vogue has continued its trend of indoctrinating teenagers with far-left propaganda, this time opting to promote domestic terrorist organization Antifa. It wasn't long ago that Teen Vogue was promoting anal sex, giving teenagers all the information they needed to know how to engage in a sexual act promoted by the porn industry. And so you'll forgive me if I miss Teen Vogue's piece encouraging its readers to excuse the violence of domestic terrorist organization Antifa. But luckily, they reminded me in a tweet on the 22nd of June. Teen Vogue wrote, "The primary motivation is to stop racists from organizing," sharing an article with the title, "Here's What Antifa is Really Trying to Do." From the onset, it is clear that Teen Vogue is attempting to discourage its young readers from listening to not just conservatives, but all non-far leftists who accurately describe the brutality, violence, and wicked behavior of Antifa. Teen Vogue wants to create a generation of political ideologues and activists who excuse violence as long as it's used to help advance their own agenda. The piece starts by explaining the history of the Charlottesville rally, which ended in tragedy. Teen Vogue uses the story as leverage to begin the discussion with a context that right-wing or conservative equals bad. The assumption that the Charlottesville rally represents the wider conservative movement is of course wrong, but that doesn't matter. And the rest of the article is essentially a puff piece interviewing a historian from Dartmouth College who also happens to be the author of the Anti-Fascist Handbook. So an all-around fair and balanced commentator, right? Teen Vogue asked Mark Bray about the violence and criminal activity that Antifa engages in, and he justifies it by saying, "They have a view of self-defense that entails both self-defense in an immediate sense and in a preemptive sense. The immediate sense has been very necessary and really the root of anti-fascism, both going back to the 1920s and 30s, when anti-fascism grew out of the need for self-defense for Mussolini's black shirts and Hitler's brown shirts, but also over the past decades when immigrant groups, leftist punks, and skinheads have found a need in different times and places to defend themselves and fight back. They also see self-defense as a preemptive measure. They refuse to give white supremacists and fascists the benefit of the doubt that their organizing will not at some point result in attacks on vulnerable communities. If necessary, if other methods of stopping them do not work, then confronting them and forcing them to stop is part of the repertoire." And this is precisely why the far left cannot be reasoned with. Mark Bray and others who excuse the behavior of this domestic terrorist organization perpetuate the lie that Antifa are fighting real Nazis. They are not fighting real Nazis. Trump supporters are not Nazis. And no matter how many times the left claim they are, that is not going to change. When the left believe they are actually at war with Nazis, of course they're going to use violence. Most reasonable people would consider force if they really believed they were about to be ruled by murderous authoritarians. And when people like Mark Bray and outlets like Teen Vogue perpetuate this lie, they don't just create further division in society, but they put innocent people's lives at risk. Teen Vogue is putting lives at risk and indoctrinating children, and that is inexcusable. If you want to see more from me and the rest of the Rebel team, like and subscribe.